Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We got a very interesting article with adoptions, and the adoptions are going to be done by the Russians with children from the obviously orphan children from occupied territories or from the liberated territories, however you want to look at it. This article comes from the New Voice of Ukraine, and this is the title: Russia announces adoption of thousands of children deported from occupied Mariupol. Ukraine reacts. It is said that children deported from Mariupol will live in Tyumen, Irkutsk, Kemerovo, and Altai Krai. Another 3 children from Ukraine are now in the queue for adoption, quote unquote, and remain in specialized institutions in Krasnodar Krai. Now, when they say from Ukraine, they refer to the occupied territories here. It says that the spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Oleg Nikolenko, called on Russia to return all kidnapped children to their parents or legal guardians. What do you mean kidnapped? Do you think that the Russians kidnapped children at the gunpoint from living parents? Unless you think that the Russians are a special kind of people that we would not want to live on this planet with them. And I think that's the message. Russia reports that 1,000 Ukrainian children were unlawfully transferred from occupied Mariupol to Siberia. He tweeted, the same guy. Well, how do you know? I don't think they were Ukrainian. You call them Ukrainian, but they were from the territory that they liberated for the reason why they intervened over there in the first place, because you were killing them. So maybe those are the result of some bombardments, both sides. I can't tell who, because I'm not over there, and they all lie. And then they get into Siberia. You know what the implication of this? Conflating this with the Second World War and with the gulags. Remember the work camps, the death camps, how you want to call them? After the Second World War, with the prisoners of war, there were millions, 22 millions, I think, that were taken over there and then returned home. I can't even remember how many they returned. I don't want to say things I'm not certain here. Anyway, mistakes I make, but I don't want to make it by going this far. So that's the first thing. Second, you don't know if they're Ukrainian. And what do you do with a child when you find them? I don't think they were kidnapped. Why would they kidnap? And I'm going to make a point about this. But let me read about a little bit more here. It says, this is a grave breach of the Fourth Geneva Convention and the UN Convention of Child Rights. Ukraine's Territories Ministry announced on July 29 that more than 5,600 children had already been deported to Russia, but that the true number was much higher. So what do you do with this, with children? So first, let's put it, I don't believe that the Russians went and said, "Stoy, give me your kid." No, pam, and take the kid. I don't think that happened. And I want to tell you why. Supposedly, the Russians hate Ukrainians, and supposedly the Ukrainians hate Russians. So it's like a given. I'm not going to get into the reasons. That's not the point. They hate one another. Now, if you hate a nation so much, why would you get their children, raise them with your resources? You hate those children because they're Ukrainian, and guess what? Those children will grow up, and one day they will know that they are Ukrainian, forcefully taken by the Russians, living in a Russian family. Do you think they're going to say, "Thank you very much"? No, they're going to do something. So where would you take 6,000 children? They will grow to be in your country with your resources of a nation that allegedly you hate. I mean, imagine that. Imagine, for instance, I'm just giving you an example, right? The example is bad, but not bad. It's a good example, but it's going to be politically incorrect. Let's say 1805. Let's say we are in, I don't know, somewhere in United States of America, the colonies, however you want to call them. All right, United States was formed at their time and so on. So, how many? Then you have others. So you obviously have white people and you have the slaves. You tell me that if there's a famine among slaves somewhere, the whites then will get the African children of the slaves that they despise, right? They consider them inferior and all that, right? They did that. Do you think they will take them and they will raise them in their family with their resources like equal? I mean, I understand them getting them, raising them for like I'm going to use another bad example. Someone is going to work for you later, like a slave. But no, you're going to raise something like that in their brains, that's not even human. That's how they look at it, like children. You're going to raise them in your family as your equal? That's impossible. And besides, maybe you killed his parents and he's going to find out one day. Do you think he's going to say, thank you very much for saving me? So this reasoning that these guys are using, it's so idiotic. How do you think the Russians will take Ukrainians in their country and raise them in their family when they hate the Ukrainians? And besides, how do you know those are Ukrainians? I suspect that those children are children that are unfortunately without parents because they were killed in the bombardments. Whomever killed them, Russians, Ukrainians, both. And the Russians had to do something with them. Now, during a war, what are you going to do? You're going to kick up kid's butt and send him towards that front over there and say, go to Ukraine because you're Ukrainian? What are you going to do? You care for the child's safety. So you obviously take the kid, you put him in a camp, as they say. Where are you going to put them? How would you call that? Happy, summer camp? How are you going to call it? It doesn't matter. You have to put them in one place, all of them, and take care of them like a kindergarten. It's big, you gotta feed them, you gotta clothe them, you have to make sure they have electricity, they have water, they have all that. That's what the Russians are doing for the Ukrainian kids. Do you think they will do that since they're so bad? So forget about that. So they do all this, right? They do all this for these children, and then what are they supposed to do? The war is still on. Should they send them over there where they're gonna go? That's a war zone. They got them here where it's peace. So they figure things out. What, they're going to keep them over there, the kids? For how long? What if the war is like 5 years? The kids are going to be there. Even here, people who abandon kids, you keep the kid and then you're not going to stay there forever. You find a family, a loving family that wants the kid. So that's what they do. So I don't know how can they return it to whom? Don't tell me they grabbed them, they kidnapped them. Really. I mean, this is a story I don't believe. These are orphans. And that gets me to the movie Nacho Libre, another stupid comedy. And it was the El Esqueleto over there. Just watch that with Jack Black. But it was the other guy, the skinny guy. And Jack Black was with the orphans, helping the orphans. And the other guy, he said, I hate orphans. So anyway, they just got in my mind. But we're the orphans. But the poor kids are just, they need help. And I'm glad that there are families that will take them in a warm house and they will provide for the kids. What do you expect? Send them to Ukraine when you don't even know? In times of war, that's a lot of, child trafficking, organs trafficking, sex slaves, and so on. Is that what you want to end up in Ukraine? I think Ukraine is more destabilized than Russia at this point. So I think Russia does something fantastic for the kids. It's not kidnapping, it's not, oh my God, they're going to adopt them. Well, you're going to send them over there so you can take the organs? I'm just exaggerating. Use them as sex slave for the crazy pedophiles? What's going on here? I think it's good at what happens here. Better option than that. The best option would be the kids with the families. Now, if they find families after the war and the kids were lost or something, yeah, return them to their parents. But now, what do you think? The whole Russia is going to work for Ukrainian children, if those Ukrainian children? And I don't think they're Ukrainian children. And if they are, so what? If they're loving families over there who want to take care of these kids and provide a safe environment and loving environment, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Don't we say here, love is love? What do you think? They're going to raise the kids in the Russian culture? Oh my God, we're going to go into that thing with homosexuals here, you can say, oh, they can't, adopt children. Yes, they can adopt children. So what's wrong with that? If the Russians adopt children, are you judging them or something? A loving family, love is love. All right. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.